In 1908, the Chiso Corporation, a chemical factory, opened in Minamata in Kumamoto Prefecture, a town on the west coast of the southern island of Kyushu. Initially producing fertilizers, the factory followed the nationwide expansion of Japan's chemical industry, branching out into production of acetylene, acetaldehyde, acetic acid, vinyl chloride, and octanol, among others. The Chiso factory became the most advanced in all Japan, both before and after World War II. The factory provided growth and jobs for the city. The Chiso Minamata factory first started acetaldehyde production in 1932, producing 210 tons that year. By 1951, production had jumped to 6,000 tons per year, over 50% of Japan's total output. The chemical reaction used for production created a small amount of an organic mercury compound named methyl mercury. This highly toxic compound was released into Minamata Bay, where it inevitably contaminated the shellfish and fish of the bay and Shiranui Sea. On April 21, 1956, a 5-year-old girl was examined at the Chiso Corporation's factory hospital. The physicians observed the following symptoms: difficulty walking, difficulty speaking, and convulsions. Days later, 2 more began to exhibit the same symptoms. After a house-to-house investigation, 8 more patients were discovered and hospitalized. On May 1, the hospital director to the local public health office reported the discovery of an epidemic of an unknown disease of the central nervous system, marking the official discovery of Minamata disease. During the investigations of the city government and medical practitioners, they uncovered surprising anecdotal evidence of the strange behavior of cats and other wildlife in the areas surrounding patients' homes. From around 1950 onwards, cats had been seen to have convulsions, go mad, and die. Locals called it the cat dancing disease, owing to their erratic movement. Crows had fallen from the sky, seaweed no longer grew on the seabed, and fish floated dead on the surface of the sea. The Kumamoto University Research Group was formed on August 24, 1956, to help the research effort. The research revealed the disease developed with patients complaining of a loss of sensation and numbness in their hands and feet. They became unable to grasp small objects or fasten buttons. They could not run or walk without stumbling. Their voices changed in pitch, and many patients complained of difficulty seeing, hearing, and swallowing. In general, these symptoms deteriorated and were followed by severe convulsions, coma, and eventual death. By October 1956, 40 patients had been discovered, 14 of whom had died, a mortality rate of 36.7%. Researchers from the university also began to focus on the cause of the strange disease. Their findings from investigating the staple food of the cats and the victims concluded with fish and shellfish from the Minamata Bay as the prime suspects of being poisoned. On November 4, 1956, the research group announced its initial findings. Minamata disease is rather considered to be poisoning by a heavy metal. Presumably, it enters the human body mainly through fish and shellfish. As soon as the investigation identified the heavy metal as the causal substance, the wastewater from the Chiso plant was immediately suspected as their origin. The company's own test revealed that its wastewater contained many heavy metals in concentrations sufficiently high to bring about serious environmental degradation. Identifying which particular poison was responsible for the disease proved to be extremely difficult and time-consuming. During 1957 and 1958, many different theories were proposed, but it was not until March 1958 when visiting British neurologist Douglas McAlpine suggested that Minamata symptoms resembled those of organic mercury poisoning, that the focus of the investigation centered on mercury. In February 1959, the mercury distribution in Minamata Bay was investigated. Large quantities of mercury were detected in fish, shellfish, and sludge from the bay, which centered around the Chiso factory wastewater canal in Hyakken Harbor. On November 12, 1959, the Ministry of Health and Welfare's Minamata Food Poisoning Subcommittee published its results. Minamata disease is a poisoning disease that affects mainly the central nervous system and is caused by the consumption of large quantities of fish and shellfish living in Minamata Bay and its surroundings, the major causative agent being some sort of organic mercury compound.
Chiso failed to cooperate with the investigation team from Kumamoto University. It withheld information on its industrial process. In July 1959, the Chiso factory's hospital director, Hajime Hosokawa, established a laboratory and research division of the plant to carry out his own experiment into the Minamata disease. Food to which factory wastewater had been added was fed to healthy cats. 78 days into the experiment, Cat 400 exhibited symptoms of Minamata disease, and pathological examination confirmed a diagnosis of organic mercury poisoning. The company did not reveal the significant result to the investigators and ordered Hosokawa to stop his research. Chiso went on to undermine Kumamoto University researchers' organic mercury theory by funding research into alternative causes of disease, other than its own waste.
After the outbreak of Minamata disease, the fishing situation was becoming critical. Fishing catches had declined by 91% between the years 1953 and 1957. The Minamata Fishing Cooperative protested against Chiso and angrily forced their way into the factory on August 6 and 12, demanding compensation. A committee was set up by Minamata Mayor Todomo Nakamura to mediate between the two sides but was stacked heavily in the company's favor. On August 29, the fishing cooperative agreed to the mediation committee's proposal, stating, "In order to end the anxiety of the citizens, we swallow our tears and accept." The company paid the cooperative 20 million Japanese yen or $55,600 and set up a 15 million Japanese yen fund to promote the recovery of fishing. Since the change of route of wastewater output in 1958, pollution had spread up and down the Shiranui Sea, damaging fisheries too. Emboldened by the success of the small Minamata cooperative, the Kumamoto Prefectural Alliance of Fishing Cooperatives also decided to seek compensation from Chiso. After a series of failed demands, a riot took place causing many injuries and 10 million Japanese yen worth of damage. The violence was covered widely in the media, bringing the nation's attention to the Minamata issue for the first time since the outbreak began. Another mediation committee was set up. An agreement hammered out and signed on December 17. 25 million Japanese yen sympathy money was paid to the alliance and 65 million Japanese yen fishing recovery fund established. The victims of Minamata disease were in a much weaker position than the fishermen. Patients' families were the victim of discrimination and ostracism from the local community. In November 1959, the patients asked Kumamoto Prefecture Governor Hirosako Teramoto to include the patients' request for compensation with the mediation that was ongoing with the Prefectural Fishing Alliance. Chiso agreed, and after a few weeks further negotiation, another sympathy money agreement was signed. Patients who were certified by a Ministry of Health and Welfare Committee would be compensated. Adult patients received 100,000 Japanese yen per year, children with 30,000 Japanese yen per year, and families of dead patients would receive a one-off 320,000 Japanese yen payment. On October 21, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry ordered Chiso to switch back its wastewater drainage from the Minamata River to Hayakin Harbor and to speed up the installation of wastewater treatment systems at the factory. Chiso installed a cyclator purification system on December 19, 1959. However, testimony at the later Niigata Minamata disease trial proved that Chiso knew the cyclator was completely ineffective. The purification tank was installed as a social solution and did nothing to remove organic mercury. The deception was completely successful, and almost all parties involved in Minamata disease were duped into believing that the factory's wastewater had been made safe from December 1959 on. The years between the first set of sympathy money agreements in 1959 and the start of the first legal action to be taken against Chiso in 1969 are often called the 10 years of silence. From the discovery of the disease to their deception, nothing had a significant impact to change the company's actions or the coverage of Minamata in the national media. Local doctors and medical officials had noticed for a long time an abnormally high frequency of cerebral palsy and other infantile disorders in the Minamata area. In 1961, a number of medical professionals, including Masazumi Harada, later to receive an honor from the United Nations for his body of work on Minamata disease, set about re-examining children diagnosed with cerebral palsy. After several years of study and autopsies of 2 children, the doctors announced that these children were suffering from an as yet unrecognized congenital form of Minamata disease. The certification committee convened on November 29, 1962 and agreed that 2 dead children and 16 children still alive should be certified as patients and therefore liable for sympathy payments from CHISO in line with the 1959 agreement. As of 1999, 62 cases of congenital Minamata disease have been confirmed in fetuses in Japan, 13 of which resulted in death. Minamata disease broke out again in 1965, this time along the banks of the Agano River in Niigata Prefecture. The polluting factory owned by Showa Denka employed a chemical process using a mercury catalyst very similar to that used by Chisa in Minamata. Before long, the cat dancing disease and the same symptoms from the first disease surfaced and the outbreak was made public on June 12, 1965. Researchers from the Kumamata University Research Group and Hajime Hosokawa, who had retired from Chisa in 1962, used their experience from Minamata and applied it to Niigata outbreak. In September 1966, a report was issued proving Showa Denka's pollution to be the cause of the second Minamata disease. Unlike the patients in Minamata, the victims of Showa Denka's pollution lived a considerable distance from the factory and had no particular link to the company. As a result, the local community was much more supportive of patients' groups, and a lawsuit was filed against the company in March 1968, only 3 years after discovery. The patients in Niigata catalyzed a change in response to the original Minamata incident. The scientific research carried out in Niigata forced a re-examination of that done in Minamata, and the decision of Niigata patients to sue the polluting company allowed the same response to be considered in Minamata.
Minamata 戦争やで戦争の嫌いなわしらのやることが逃げ帰るようになる立ちなはれ首は座らん戦いなはれ目は見えん耳は聞こえん口聞けん味はわからん手でも